Hello, welcome. This video I'm going to show another tree, which is the umbrella pine tree. So here I have some reference again. So this is sort of like what I'm going to build. So I'm going to start out with a main trunk, and I'm going to branch from there with multiple branches, and then at the top here we will go wider and create some leaves. So it goes a little bit like an umbrella. So here's then another example, so quite similar in structure. So here in Houdini, in a geometry network, let's start out with creating a trunk. And maybe I'm going to lower the trunk a bit. So if you want like a high tree, we can keep it quite high like here, or maybe we can bring this a bit down, like maybe to 7. We can always do a randomizer if we want to. I'm just going to keep it to 7 in this case. I'm also going to change the radius here, because I need some space here for multiple branches to continue. So I'm maybe going to keep it like this. And we can always give this a bend if you want to, or we can give some small roots in there, maybe a little bit subtle there, just to break up that bottom a bit. And furthermore, we then have our noises, meshing, and so on. But first, let's also bring in our controller. So the tree controller. This will also add some noises in there. And in here in the controller, I'm going to go to the noise. And I'm going to set these noises a little bit less intense. So also here the second noise, set them a little bit less intense over here. Maybe play around here with the frequency. Something like this is fine. And now we can add some branches. If you have watched the other videos about this, there is one tool I have not shown, which is the branch placer. So let's place down here the branch placer tool. And this is a more interactive tool on placing branches. So either we can input custom hand-drawn placement of branches by a curve node, for example. So we can use the draw curve. We can add it here. And I can, for example, just draw something like this. And as you can see, it will automatically add that here as well. So there are some parameters here again for, like, you can see it automatically gave it a random rotation and roll. So you can twist that. And so if you put this to 0, we can see that it is in the original shape where I draw my line. Also, again, I'm going to go to the controller, and in the meshing, I'm going to have the intersection behavior to none. So it's not merging this together, so it will go a bit faster when I'm working with this tool. So in case you don't have custom lines, we can always just click here on the branch. So click with your mouse, and you can see that we can place a branch here manually. So in case I want something on top, I can just place it here on top. And here under the placement branches, we then have here this branch, so we can still tweak the length and the position if we want to. We can also just remove it, so in case you maybe made a mistake, we can just remove this back again. So we can just place it here, we can scroll with our middle mouse to make this larger, and so on. And we can add multiple of these around. So there are further some more options here to control this. So if you're interested in more having a custom or hand-placed branch, this tool will be very useful. So know that this exists, but to continue, I'm going to make a more procedural approach, and I'm going to go back to the generator. So here I have generated this, and I want them to come from the top. So first, maybe let's get less of them. Maybe let's just place 3. And I want them to from the top. So I'm going to scroll down. And here we have the length of the ramp. And if I move this all the way up, we will now have them moved here to the top part. Now let's go back up to the rotation and angle settings. So I don't like how they are rotated or facing a certain direction, so I'm going to disable the ramp first. This will help already a lot with it, or we can play around with this setting, but I think I'm just going to disable it. We can add some random variation. Let's maybe play around with this value, so we can really now bend it more open or closed. So maybe around 60. We can also here roll this around, add some random rotation, and maybe in the length here, let's make them longer. So what if they are 1? That's pretty long. And I'm also going to next step go to radius, and I'm going to repeat the same process again. So I want a bit space here at the top so they can have multiple branches coming from there as well. And I also like to add some more noise because they are quite perfectly straight. So at the moment, I'm going to go to noise, override them. I'm going to enable some of these noises. And you can see that I want to like break up a bit that shape. So that maybe lower the intensity a bit. Also in the secondary noise, lower this. Play around here with the frequency. So maybe we can lower this and play around with some of that setting. So something like this. Then let's repeat this process by copying the nodes and plugging in the lines here again. And you can see that we will have the same effect going on. So we will just copy these branches there. Now let's go to the general settings, placement, and in there, maybe we can do a random scatter. So not every branch end here has the same amount of branches. So let me take from 2 to 4. So in this case, it has 2, this one has 4, this one has 3. So they have all a different amount. Then let's maybe reset some here of these angles. Maybe just lower this a bit so that it's a bit more open. And I think I'm going to make them also smaller. They don't have to be that long here. And maybe what if you lower this? Maybe just a bit. Then also maybe here the factor and the branching, maybe let's play around with that. So maybe parenting. And now let's go to tropism settings, override, and we're going to go to the gravity. And maybe we want to just bring this up so they're actually facing more up like so. Because now I want to first go up, and then here at the top, the smaller branches, then they go more wide like this. So maybe around 0.2, a bit more. I think that's fine. I feel like my trunk is maybe like a bit small. So I think I'm gonna go to the radius here and maybe make this a bit bigger. I feel that's a bit better. Then next up, let's place another branch node here again. I'm gonna start with a new one. And we have then some branches there, so that's sort of what I want. And maybe let's try out the edge length. I'm gonna start out with 1. I think that's a decent value to start with here. Then I'm gonna disable the ramp here, and you can see that this gives a, and you can see that this makes a big difference, and I like it without the ramp, so they go more in the upwards direction. I like that more. Maybe they go a bit more open. We can have a little variation there as well. Maybe they are a bit smaller. And here's then sort of the distribution. So if you want them to be only more at the top, but maybe I want them somewhere here halfway. Let's go to the tropism, override, and let's see what a bend can do. This can be quite interesting. Maybe let's also see what gravity is giving us. Maybe a little bit of gravity there, something like this. So they go like, so they still face upwards, but they go a little bit open. Then maybe add some more noise variation there. So the noise is quite subtle, so I can always go back to my noise here and boost it back again. Maybe a bit more trees. Let's make this a bit smaller. Let's place another branch node. Now we have more of these smaller branches, and maybe I don't need that much for now. Let's start out with 4. Let's again disable the ramp here, because I like them to keep that rotation, the angle a bit more. Maybe lower this a bit. Add some randomness there. Also the size, they can be a bit smaller, like 0.7, around that maybe. And we can also define here a bit more where they are, so I want to push them a bit upwards. Then we can always go back to tropism, override, and play around with the gravity here. I think this is more interesting. This will be more the look that I'm going for. So we will have then the sort of like the clusters of the leaves around these branches here. You can really see sort of like that umbrella shape there. Then let's also maybe do one more branch here for the small parts. And put that in over here. This will be the last one. So this will really create some small branches for the leaves. In that node, we can leave it at 8. I think that's a quite decent amount if I will place the branches on them. I'm gonna again disable the ramp because this is definitely more the look that I'm going for. So they really face that direction there. I quite like how this is looking right now, but maybe still bring this a bit down here. Maybe that's too much. I think that's a bit better. So they have a little bit randomness in there and a bit open. I think the size is okay. We can make them smaller or bigger if you want to, but I'm gonna leave it like this. And I'm gonna go to the leaf generator. So maybe first let's create a simple leaf here. So here let's create something simple, maybe make it a bit smaller, and also the width can be more like this. So it really is like a fine leaf. Maybe near the beginning should be more like so. I think that's fine. Just a very simple leaf. And let's then use the leaf generator to place them on the tree. So we're going to plug in our tree. By default, it will place around these cards. So we want our leaves, of course. So we can see our leaves here. And then we go to our settings. I'm going to leave the distance as it is for now. And first, maybe I want to boost a bit the scale because I barely noticed them. So let me increase that here. So now we can see them way better. And we can always manually press numbers. So if you want to have a higher, let's say I want 2.5. I'm actually already pretty happy with this out of the box result. So I can even go more. Let's say if I add a little bit more, maybe 0.05, makes it a bit better, but not that much. We can also again enable instancing to make this a bit faster. And I think I'm gonna leave it like default value, maybe even less. No, I think default value here was okay. This gives a pretty cool result here. So I'm quite happy with how my tree looks. Maybe the leaves are a bit too big on my side here, but these are easy to tweak. So again, maybe this 2.5 was maybe too much, maybe 1.5. That's maybe a bit better. And then we can maybe boost them by adding more. So again, as I mentioned in other videos, this is quite procedural way. So we can go back to the controller. We have here a randomize. And we can here generate versions. So as you can see, we can quickly get some different versions. We can tweak some of these settings. So if you want the base trunk to be higher, we can just go back to the trunk generator, increase the height to 10, 20 or so on if you want a really high tree. and can go from there. So that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and thank you for watching.